Hello, everybody. Make sure my pearly yellows are pearly. Yeah, got nothing in there. That's good. Just got done eating some of my leftover Denver steak. Denver steak is like a ribeye. It's not quite the ribeye, but it's basically a poor man's ribeye, and it tastes a good, man. Good, muy bueno. Let's make sure we're on Rumble. Let me see what Pablo's up to down here. Pablo wants something to say. Hold on, just. I got you, Pablo. Come on up. All right, there we go. I'm not convinced Rumble numbers are right when it comes to streaming video views. I'm not convinced of that at all. I see some guys on Rumble with tens of thousands of views on their live streams, but with only a couple hundred on the regular videos. So something is off with Rumble. But I like being on Rumble. I don't think Rumble is all that. I'm not quite sure I believe it, if that makes sense. All right, so what I want to talk about today has got a lot to talk about. Should Jim Cramer be investigated? We'll wait till we get some more people jumping on here. Hey, we got Vaughn. What up, Vaughn? Got Kevin Hawthorne from Lakeland, Florida in the house. Right on, right on. Should Jim Cramer be investigated? What do you think, Pablo? You like to smell my Denver steak breath? Smell. Yeah, Pablo says yes. Yeah, in fact, what do the markets do? Are they down? I think they're down today, right? Let's take a gander at the L markets. Yeah, so the Dow is down 1.75%, Nasdaq's down 85 basis points, S&P 500 is down 1.5. The 10-year Treasury is at 3.453. Woo, Nelly. The days, oh, dude, it busts right in my face, man. Look at that. Look at that. Pablo, this is a family show, man. This is a family show. Pablo he's shaking his butt. He's twerking. Look at Pablo twerking. He's twerking like Miley Cyrus. He's twerking. I found this was interesting. Check this out. You guys will get a kick out of this. Oops, 1 second. Honduras to seek official ties with China. China spurring its long relationship with Taiwan. This lady is something. Castro announced Tuesday their government would seek to establish diplomatic relations with China. The switch would leave only Taiwan recognized by 13 countries, as China spends billions to win recognition of its one China policy. She said on her Twitter account that she had instructed Honduran Foreign Affairs to negotiate with China. She said during the 2021 presidential campaign that if elected, she would seek China's, but once in power, her government backtracked on those comments. All right, so that's there we go. There's even more of the United States empire just crumbling at across the board here. I mean, China is spending the money that we used to spend that we can't spend anymore, and our military is just shot to hell. It's just all there is to it. It is. I'm not worried about China taking over the world. I'm just not. I mean, they're in the worst demographics than we are by far. I'm not, and frankly, is there any reason to think that China has its sights on the entirety of the world? I don't think so. But the issue that is, it's showing you more and more the collapsing of the U.S. empire. It's just that simple. And that if people hear that, say, "Oh, you don't like America?" I love freaking America, dude. I love America. I love being American. American citizens kick ass and take names. The issue is that we're led by freaking tyrants and scoundrels and scumbags. And frankly, we've probably been since since Lincoln, to be perfectly honest with you. 150 years is a good run, man. Probably got another 50 or so, but after that, it's done. When I say done, doesn't mean not going to be in America. It just means it's not going to be the way it was. It's just not. You got to get used to the lack of services. You just have to get used to living like you were in the 70s. And if you're not familiar with the 70s, equate yourself to it. You didn't have any meat. Meat wasn't abundant. I mean, like literally writing my book talking about we didn't have. We probably grilled twice a year. That's it. We had one of those old crap little charcoal grills, you know what I'm saying, and hamburgers. We weren't grilling every day like I do now. I'll tell you that right now. Why? Because meat was freaking expensive. But it's more expensive now, Josh. That's what fools say. That's what fools say. They'll look at the price of meat and they say, see, the dollar's crashing. No, You have to look at the other side of the freaking cash flow statement, the income statement. So your income has dwarfed, the increase in your income has dwarfed the price of meat, for example. As such, you can afford more meat. That's just a fact, Jack. And then they have all this, grain or corn fed and grain fed, propping up these cows with freaking hormones and all that crap. All that stuff's bad for you, without question. But anyway, either way, we have more meat. Meat is more abundant than it was in the 1970s. At least if you're poor. I don't know. I don't know what's like back in the 70s if you had money. I don't know. Maybe if you're wealthy in the 70s, you had all the meat that I have now. I don't know. I didn't have any. We didn't have a microwave. We didn't have a TV. We didn't have a car. Maybe I'm the exception to the rule. I don't think so. I think a lot of people had a lot of similar experiences with you. They might have had a TV. They might have had a car. But I bet a lot of people had similar experiences that I did, that didn't have the abundance of food that we have now. I remember making a telephone call. I talked about this last week. To call California from Maine cost $10 for an hour, $10 for 10 minutes, excuse me. So it's $1 an hour for a phone call. All right. And that was during the nighttime. During the daytime, where the more commercial, it even costs more. So we're just going to have to get used to going back to the more of a level of scarcity. And it's just that simple, man. The empire is crumbling all over the place. And I want to talk about SVB again, Silicon Valley Bank, but I want to talk about it in context of Jim Cramer. So bear with me just a second. We kind of talk about fractional reserve. Let's say a quick prayer, actually. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Oh, Heavenly Father, we thank you for our fellowship here amongst friends. We pray for an open mind to be okay with new ideas, to be able to have the strength to investigate new ideas, even if it bothers us or scares us. Recognizing no matter what, though, at the end of the day, your word reigns supreme without question. You, Lord, sent your only son to die on a cross for us to open up the gates of heaven. So those who follow your commands will go to the pearly gates and be rewarded with the most famous words I've ever uttered in mankind. Well done, good and faithful servant. We pray in Jesus' name, amen. All right, so we always got to give glory to the big guy. All right, so let's talk about fractional reserve. So I was thinking about this, like, how can you actually make this make sense? And I came up with the thought, and this might make not sense, but let's just say I have 100 people, all right, 100 people, and they're gathered around a restaurant for simplicity. All right, would you stop? I don't know. I just took him for WALK. He just dropped his bomb outside. I picked it up. I threw it in the trash can. He's still whining. I'm like, dude, kill me. He was sitting on my lap, and now he's like, oh, I want something more. You know what it is? I gave him a little bit of that Denver steak. It's like cocaine. He's like, give me more of that Denver steak. Give me more of that Denver steak. That's what it is. Now he's like, oh, man. Now he's like a zombie. I need Denver steak. I need Denver steak. Like, well, come on up then. You know how to do it. All right, so say you got 100 people. They're milling around a food store, a restaurant, something like that. All right, but the restaurant only has 10 meals. That's it. So you got 100 people sitting around a restaurant. The restaurant only has 10 meals. The owner of the restaurant says, dude, you guys can't be sitting around here doing nothing because I can't feed you all. I can't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a ticket which says you have the ability to claim this ticket for one meal. All right. So I'm going to give you a ticket to each of you 100 people. You have the ability to come and get a food for one meal. All right. With that ticket. I only got 10, but I need you to go outside and start building stuff, start digging ditches, start planting, start raising cattle. I need all this. We need to grow. We need to grow our economy so we can feed more than just 10 meals, but we can feed everybody over time and continue to feed people. All right. So if the incentive is to get you away from milling around the store because we got 10 meals, I'm going to give you the incentive by guaranteeing you this ticket that says you have access to a meal. You just present the ticket, you'll get a meal. But you got to go out there and you got to do work. You got to work for it. All right. So now these 100 people say, okay, that's fair. That makes sense. So they go out and they start doing labor, doing laborious things. They're digging ditches. They're friggin', raising dogs. They're, building. They're doing all kinds of stuff. All right. They're making food. And it seems like the issue is working because they're all abundant. They have all this abundance now. They've created things. They don't need to draw on that ticket. That ticket, it was nice as an assurance, but they don't need it because now all the economic activity is happening. It's like, yeah, sweet. We don't need that ticket after all. Now they still keep it. They like the guarantee of having that food provided to them, but now they're out there busting their ass. And as such, there's more and more work to be done and more food to be eaten because they don't need to rely on that tent. All right. All of a sudden, though, people in the know, Jim Cramer's of the world, will just throw that out there. They get notice that there is a drought coming on, like a once in a 7-year drought is coming on. Jim Cramer's of the world, hey man, there's a drought coming on. All right, so there's 10 Jim Cramers that know a drought's coming on, and they know the food is going to be gone. What do? They go take that ticket and they cash it in for a piece for that food. But remember, the restaurant owner only has 10 meals. He can't feed everybody. He didn't need to feed everybody while the economy was growing and was getting good. But now they know Jim Cramer's of the world are made aware of a drought coming on. They go cash that ticket for their food. Everybody else, us peons, we're not aware of the drought. So we're still building, we're still digging, we're still doing this, grinding. And then we wake up one day, we said, whoa, there's no rain, there's a drought. And then we don't have any more food. We're like, okay, well, I'm going to go cash my ticket in at the restaurant because at least I have a food for there. And that will provide me until the drought goes away. So the rest of us 90 people, we go to the restaurant. Hey, here's our ticket. It's like restaurant owner's like, I got nothing. There's no food here. The other 10 people already got it. He's like, what? But I got a guarantee. And the guy's like, yeah, sucks, man. You got a guarantee. I got nothing in which to provide you for that guarantee. The guarantee is only as good as a guarantor, and I'm bankrupt. But yet Jim Cramer and his buddies are out there freaking smoking cigars and freaking, going down to see what Jeff Epstein's up to. You see what I'm saying? And you and I are out there saying, well, what are we going to do? And we're not going to do anything. We're going to freaking starve to death. And that's fractional reserve, man. It works until it doesn't, and then your guarantees aren't worth anything. And this is exactly what's happening here. And so Silicon Valley Bank is just the beginning of it because the fractional reserve inherently is going to fall. There's just no two ways around this. Now, the fractional reserve works, but and remember, too, there is no fractional reserve now. It's 0% reserve requirements. The restaurant owner doesn't need to keep any freaking meals in there with 0% reserve requirements. The restaurant owner says, I guarantee you a meal. Just show this ticket. I guarantee you a meal. You're like, okay. But there's no meals there. He's got no meals. That's fractional reserve. It's gone. And it works like a freaking charm. Everyone's out there grinding until storm clouds come. And then you're like, what next? We need that meal. Sorry, I don't have any. Well, you had a guarantee. Yeah, sucks to be me, but I can't guarantee you anything. Even though I'm the guarantor, I got nothing. That's the fractional reserve system. It's inherently, it's a Ponzi scheme. It cannot last. Now, I want to show you something here. So anyway, what did Cramer know and when did he know it? That's what I want to know. What did Cramer know and when did he know it? Because he was telling people to buy the freaking stock, implying that the company was solid. You see what I'm saying? I'm like, wait a second, man. Wait a second there, Jimmy baby. So when you're telling people to buy the stock, inherently you're not telling people to pull out their deposits. Now, every stockholder has to know you can go to zero. If anyone who owns stocks doesn't think they can go to zero, that's freaking stupid, man. This is a fact. If you own stock, you have no right to the company when it goes bankrupt. You are screwed. You are SOL. There's no two ways around it. If people don't know that, no Jeremy on Rumble. Yeah, I got 16 on Rumble. Yeah, all right, cool. Yo. I don't know what to tell you. You're not getting bailed out of the stock market. I mean, you can't. If you got bailed out of the stock market, then we're done. Because the stock market has all the upside potential and 100% downside risk as well. That's the way the stock market works. Bonds are a little bit different because it's collateralized, but good time waiting for your bonds. Wait for the collateral to come due. Anyway, so if Jim Cramer and his ilk are telling people to buy the stock, that means inherently they weren't saying you should pull your deposits out. But yet, I guarantee there are people pulling the deposits out. And how do we know that? Let me show you something. This is freaking nuts, dude. My man, who sent this to me? Michael did. Michael sent this to me. Check this out. Make sure. Yeah, right here. Yeah, it's evil. And if they knew this, they need to be freaking prosecuted, man. So check this out. Josh, in a recent update, Trey Taylor sends this to his subscribers. I don't know who Trey Taylor is, but was there Was there wrong done at SVB? Was this the result of bad actions by greedy bankers? Initially, it didn't look like it. The bank was just overexposed a specific sector of the economy and made some bad decisions. Them's the breaks. No harm, no foul. But maybe the leadership at the bank should have known something was up. Maybe it did know. After all, in its most recent earnings report in January, the bank revealed it held securities had mark-to-market losses of $16 billion in Q3 against just $11 billion in tangible common equity. Essentially, the bank would be underwater if it is forced to liquidate its assets, and this is in Q3. Surely the bank's chief risk officer was charged with evaluating the reality and strategy to recover from such a strange situation. Except the chief risk officer position was vacant for 9 months. It did, though, have a CAO who had been placed for 16 years, right after he left his job at the CFO of Lehman Brothers. I talked about this last week or the other day, which had expired in exactly the same way and precipitated the 2008 financial crisis. Again, talk about white privilege. If anyone wants to use white privilege, it's that guy, James Gentile. It has nothing to do with being white. It has to do with connections. He fell upwards. He failed upwards. That's the name, James Gentile. That's literally his name. He oversaw. He was a CFO of Lehman Brothers Investments. He oversaw that, clown show, and then he went to Silicon Valley Bank. All right, let's keep going. So just make sure something here. Right here. I'm going to read this to you here real quick. Seems like the CEO should know that the bank was in trouble and take some action. Well, he did take action. He sold almost 4 million of SVB shares for his own account and evidently encouraged his colleagues to do the same, selling almost 10 million in stock in February alone. Even knowing the situation, he still ordered the employee bonuses to be paid out. As with all things, though, seen through the rearview mirror, the entire scenario would have been obvious to someone who had the entire picture, but no one did, not even the managers. The crisis they created was their betting strategy, is that one many other banks have adopted as well. 100%. Let that sink in. So all these people like taking the side of the CEO. Well, he put his stocks on. He sold his stocks in January. That's what you got to file some report to sell your stocks. 30, whatever it is, some kind of rule. I forgot what it was. Anyway, okay, but he still knew Q3 didn't have enough to cover their equity. They were underwater then. In Q3. Forbes, what the hell's up with Forbes? Forbes is freaking. Did I post this the other day? I can't believe this is nuts. So somebody, I think I might, maybe I didn't. So here's Forbes. What did Forbes know when they know it? Let me see if I. Yes, there's I don't know if I posted this though. Here's a lady, I think it might have. Hold on a second. From the Forbes board. She's on the Forbes board. The SVB, this is Christina Key. QI. I don't know. I think it's Chinese. G. I'm not sure. The SVB collapse. This is a lady from the board, the Forbes board of directors. The SVB collapse has been devastating in more ways than one. They supported women, minorities, and LGBT rainbow people more than any other big bank. This includes not just diverse events, but actual funding helped us move away. SVP helped us, but now we're going to move 2 steps back. Many companies had cash in SVP, including companies like Etsy. This impacts independent makers, a lot of minorities that really worried. Because remember, when the world ends, women and minorities are hurt most. And then she posted something else that's stupid. That's the Forbes board of directors. And Forbes was just saying literally 5 days before the collapse, one of the best run banks in the country. What did Forbes know? And when did they know it? I don't know, man. All right, let's keep going because there's freaking some evil stuff happening. But just going back to the fractional reserve board. If you're freaking late to the party, you're SOL. If you're on the front end, you're good to go. You get money out. Huh. So Jim Cramer's promoting Elizabeth, what's her name? Elizabeth, what's that chick's name? Elizabeth Holmes, Thermos. Jim Cramer's promoting whatever the hell, something else he was promoting. Jim Cramer's mandating the vax. If you don't, we're going to have a military guy hold you down and mandate the vax. And these guys are allowed in polite society to propagate this stuff. And now we have congressmen saying, who's that guy from, you're an idiot that you elected in Arizona. We know it's fair. We know it's free and fair. He wants to put a kibosh on people's ability to speak freely on bank runs. Mark Kelly, fake astronaut, freaking scumbag. And yet all these guys, dude, they want to put a kibosh on us. But yet Jim Cramer's still out there. Well, when's there going to be some investigation? What did he know and when did he know it? You tell me CNBC did not know any of this crap. Forbes did not know any of this crap. It's crazy. All right, let's keep going because the hits just keep on coming. It's fun. All right, we're going to talk about my man right here, Matt Crawford on Substack. Big fan of Matt Crawford. I got to upgrade. Okay. Currency Initiative. There's no reason why ground zero had to be in Silicon Valley. The banking system was doomed to collapse because it's been a very long time since the health of the system was a priority of anyone in charge. I could write multiple articles on that statement alone, but let's think a little bit more in the near term. Debt amounts by years of maturity. All right, so here we got years of maturity, 1, and here we got 30 years. So you can see the massive amounts of debt are the short-term loans right here, between 1 and 10. This is the debt that'll be rolled out because there's no means to pay it off. You're never going to pay off the debt. It's never going to be paid off. And they're going to be rolled out at far higher interest rates than in recent times. So these are the debts right here that the federal government is going to say, hey, man, these are maturing. We got to reissue the debt. You can't pay it off, and we don't want to reissue it at a higher rate. That's what the federal government argument would be. So we want to reissue it at a lower rate, and the lower rates were the long-term bonds because of the inverted yield curve. Let's be clear. Short duration debt was available for all the banks to buy. But why didn't they? So a lot of these people are saying, oh my goodness, the Federal Reserve forced SVB to buy long-term debt. Well, they didn't get forced. One reason is that the Fed specifically encouraged banks to buy longer maturity bonds, despite the fact they were raising interest rates through an inflationary period. Yes, the Fed encouraged the actions that turned into a massive liquidity crisis. We could say that the Fed was simply desperate to avoid the debt spiral that's developing now. They wanted to issue as much long-term debt as possible. Perhaps they should have tempered their encouragement of poor liability debt mismanagement with basic instructions to keep short-term paper to cover the client's basic operating needs. Right? The Federal Reserve is technically bankrupt, says this guy. I don't know who this guy is. But anyway, in 2023, it will post its first annual operating loss of $80 billion. The first since 1915, with negative capital of $38 billion. This does not count the $1.23 trillion unrealized loss on their portfolio of $8.3 trillion. Or maybe the Fed had their own immediate needs and priorities. That said, banks were not required to bite, and SVB was the bank that did. Why? Quick, someone release something else. And here's shocking coverage of January 6th. Undercover DC police officer pushing protesters towards the Capitol. Let's talk about January 6th. I'm telling you, the guy and the dog are working together, says this sheep. Oh, come on, George. You're one of those conspiracy theories. Silicon Valley, of course, is home to the smartest people on the planet outside of the permanent unelected bureaucrats, and 2, people who are clever enough to be born to magnificently wealthy parents. It's also home to some of those kinds of people, too, drugged out zombies and woke zombies with college debt will likely disappear if the banking system collapses. Remember that. These and other reasons why smart people who aren't yet wealthy or powerful enough to pull strings in town, just as long as they can take it in. Given all the smarty smarts in the Bay Area, you would think that someone would have recognized the interest rates going from a speck above zero to a whole bunch of basis points higher forms the part of the complex plane of debt that distinguishes MO and M1 money supply. So I'm not going to read much more of this, but check this out. We are in a world currency war now, one that might be far more deadly than anything in the past. So why should we take a step back and start thinking about the motivations behind the players involved? Spoiler alert, the dollar will win in the short run. I completely agree. In the long run, the strongest currency always wins. In the short run, it's still a fiat currency, so we'll skip past competition from gold and Bitcoin. But anyway, so I can't say for certain, but I'm somehow feeling pretty certain that we'll have the dollar will be in a world of hurt at some point. Leadership of the BRIC nations, the oligarchs who know the dollar's crumbling. He goes down here. Anyway, it's pretty interesting stuff. I like Matt Crawford. Kind of cocky guy. I don't like cocky guys. Anyways, that was pretty interesting. So let's keep going. So I want to show you guys something else here too. If I can find, yes, right here. Again, people knew this, and no one is going to pay no one. It's like, check this out. So here's some Lou Rockwell. You might remember Paul Craig Roberts. Big fan of Paul Craig. Again, I think a lot of these older, what used to be neocons, right wingers, are still big on V's, if that makes sense. Ron Ooms, Paul Craig Roberts, I guarantee. What's his name? The guy in Stockman, I guarantee they're big on V's, jabby jabs. I guarantee. I don't know for sure, but I can imagine these baby boomers of the old order, who Reagan put in some offices. A lot of these guys are righteous on many things, but in terms of some things, they're still like, oh no, I believe science. Crazy. Check this out. With the Federal Reserve backstopping the banking system as it's supposed to do, and literally that's what they're doing with a guaranteeing every deposit. Bank problems and the bank problems and the panic they produce will hopefully be contained. In the last 14 months, bank reserves have declined by 1.3 trillion. That means banks are short the cash to meet the withdrawals and would have to sell financial assets to meet withdrawals. These sales would depress the prices of the financial assets and impair the bank's balance sheets. This is literally mark-to-market accounting. Of course, as during the previous financial crisis, government and financial executives will make reassuring statements. They're going to say, hey, you 90 people, keep working. There's no drought coming. But they're getting paid. Stupid smelling Yellen, last Friday when she reassured the public that the American banking system is resilient and well capitalized. But is it? The 5 banks labeled too big to fail have 188 trillion in derivatives. 188 trillion in derivatives by the 5 biggest banks labeled too big to fail. The brutal fact is that the 5 U.S. banks have risk exposure that's twice the size of the GDP of the entire world. This is where I was, again, saying about Glass-Steagall. Us right-wingers were wrong, dude, right? Phil Graham, I think it's Graham Leach Bliley got rid of Glass-Steagall. We all thought it was going to be good, and we were all wrong, 100%. We owe the financial crisis earlier in the century, and we'll owe the next financial crisis to the mindless repeal of the Glass-Steagall Act. The legislation was passed from 1933 to deal with the crisis at the time. The law did so by separating commercial from investment banking. This prevented commercial banks from using deposits for speculative purposes. The law prevented financial crises for 66 years until it was repealed in 1999 by Clinton. Alan Greenspan, the Fed chair at the time, said markets were self-regulating and did not need Washington's help. And I agree, 100%. I fell for it. In the short, a couple of Wall Street firms failed along with banks and insurance companies. The 5 largest banks were protected by quantitative easing, thus leading to the explosive growth of the Fed's balance sheet, inflated values of financial instruments, and current possibility of another crisis. Congress and economists would not admit their mistake in repealing the highly successful Glass-Steagall Act, but public resentment of big bank bailouts made Congress fix the situation. Here's how they fixed it. Congress fixed the problem it had creating by legislating the ability of your banks to seize your deposits to prevent its failure. This is a bail-in. The law was deceptively called the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform. Barney Frank, Signature Bank. It's just the 3rd largest banking fail in the history of the United States, and he's on the board. So it claimed to protect the American taxpayer by ending bailouts, but it did so by bailing out banks with the depositors' money instead of the federal tax revenues. It was said to be a bail-in. Oh, man, crazy. It happened because public policy had ceased to be in the public interest instead of serving private agendas. If the commercial banks wanted to participate in the speculative ventures like investment banks and enjoy the same high earnings. Instead of using their own money, though, they want access to that of their depositors. 100%. And so having the Dodd-Frank is just going to create more runs on the banks, because what happens is the banks can take your money and use it to shore up their balance sheets, a bail-in. And so you see a bank is starting to get worried. You're like, I'm out of there. I'm not going to. This is like Argentina, man. When he got the hair, I can't remember. It's 20% haircut in like 1995 or something. I can't remember. Someone would look it up. It's insanity. So if you had money at the banks in Argentina, you just one day woke up, you had $100, and I got 80, whatever it was. And if anyone of you from Argentina, you can tell me. But it's something like that. It's crazy. Same thing here. If you have money at SVB and any bank, Signature Bank, you say, oh man, this sucks. Our investments, our speculative high risk investments aren't paying off. So we're going to go in there and take your deposits to shore up our balance sheets. Well, deposits were only covered up to FDIC $250,000. So anything above that, the FDIC didn't cover. So now they're covering it. So again, we're socializing the risk and privatizing the profits. It's freaking pure crazy, pure craziness. We got almost 200 trillion in derivatives on the just the five biggest banks, dudes. And probably just farted. That stinks. So check this out. This is nuts. USBankLocations.com. Banks ranked by derivatives. The following is a ranking of all banks in the United States in terms of derivatives. The comparison is based on September 2022. JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Citibank, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, probably the top five. Look at that, dude. We're talking trillions of dollars. Here's Truist. Trillions of freaking dollars. Hundreds of trillions. This is insanity, dude. What credit? Do credit unions have? I don't. So I want to go back to. You better be looking at credit unions. Where I'm going with this. So let's look at. If I can find Jill's. 1 second. I want to find this email that Jill has sent to me right here. I'll make sure you guys can't see my. Let's see. Here we go. There we go. So Jill belongs to Indiana Members Credit Union, and you can't see her stuff. So let's see. Right here. From my credit union's website, as I assumed, and why I was not interested in shopping CD rates before now. In the past few days, federal regulators have shut down Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank due to lack of liquidity. These banks operate very differently from traditional financial institutions and were closely tied to higher tech, venture capital, and cryptocurrency. According to regulators, all depositors of both institutions will have access to their full deposits. And losses will not be borne by the taxpayers. Who's going to bear the losses there, guy? Indiana member credit unions had no exposure to either of these institutions. Members should know that Indiana member credit union is a safe place to save money, has a strong net worth, and a strong financial position. We continue to have a very strong liquidity position and remain well capitalized. Our operating philosophy of keeping it simple has served us well since 1956. So, I mean, I don't know how credit unions, my brother might actually, because he used to be a pretty big wig at a credit union, but I don't know how credit unions in terms of, are they, like I used to, Penn Fed, Navy Federal Credit Union. There's another credit union, it wasn't Mennonite Credit Union. It was a credit union that served the Mennonite community in Harrisonburg. I'm drawing a blank. Parkview Credit Union or something like that. I just can't imagine those guys being involved in derivatives markets. I just can't. And here's the reason why credit unions are better too, is because they have and frankly, it sucks for if you're a community bank. Credit unions don't pay tax on their on their profits. It's not a non-for-profit. I don't even know what you call it, but they don't pay tax on their profits, which means credit unions can offer higher interest rates without taking the risk of derivatives markets and things of that nature, because they don't pay tax on their profits. They give it back to the members. It sucks for community banks, dudes, because community banks, they have to compete with the big banks, the for-profit banks. They got to make a profit, and they got to compete with the credit unions as well. And a community bank, let's just say less than, I think it's 10 billion of assets or something like that. The traditional banking, but now they got to compete with the credit unions who are poaching on their traditional banking with not just mortgages, but business accounts and all that. My business account is at Navy Federal Credit Union. You see what I'm saying? So community banks are kind of, they've got, both hands tied. They can't compete against the big guys because the big guys have all the speculative investments and all the money from Jim Cramer's of the world. The little guys, on the other hand, the credit unions are poaching more and more on their local situation. And so, at the end of the day, you got to be careful of these community banks too, because you're like, they have to pay tax on their income. The credit unions don't. So inherently, credit unions can offer better rates without question. So I'd be looking at credit unions right now, man. They're subsidized. There's no two ways around that. I'd read someplace that community, I don't see it up in my thing here. I'd read someplace that community banks are, a lot of them in the world are hurting right now too. I don't know that to be true. I can't remember where I read that actually. I don't know that to be true or not, but I just read someplace that community banks are in a world of hurt. And if I'm wrong on that, certainly make me aware of that. But community credit unions look to me to be the safest bet in town because I just can't see credit unions. Navy Federal Credit Union is by far and away the biggest credit union in the world. Nothing comes close. So I just can't imagine mom and pop credit union being that risky. Now, with that said, there are credit unions who go under all the time. They're gobbled up by NCUA by itself is the credit union version of FDIC. That's not that strong either. I'm just telling you right now, NCUA isn't that strong, similar to FDIC. So there are credit unions that get gobbled up, that go under and get bought out by bigger credit unions, just like what happens in banking. Why do you think there's no more Wachovia Bank? You think Wachovia Bank wanted to be gobbled up by Wells Fargo? No, it's forced to be. Yeah, that's why there's no more freaking Wachovia, and there's a bunch of different banks like that. You see what I'm saying? So you gotta be careful of too small credit union, if that makes sense, because you don't want it to be going under either. But you certainly want to be looking at a credit union that has been around for a while, and is safe. And I was talking to this lady today from Texas. As a matter of fact, she moved from New Jersey to Texas a couple years ago, and she had, I want to say, $400,000 at Capital One, a certificate of deposit, and she's going to make like $18,000 this year on interest. So that's great. I said, the minute that sucker matures, though, take it out of Capital One, man. Because actually, let's see, we got Capital One Bank on here. Let's take a look. What's there? Yeah, Capital One Bank's got 164 billion in derivatives. 164 billion in derivatives. If you actually want a primer on the derivative market, this lady, she freaking crushes, man. Her Ellen Brown. You should follow her. I don't know her, just from reading Paul Craig Roberts. Remember, Paul Craig Roberts used to be with National Review until they banned him for saying verboten things like, white people have rights too. How dare you, Paul Craig Roberts? How dare you say white people have rights? And National Review, just like they kicked off Mark Stein, they got very nervous by people saying white people have rights. How dare you? Anyway, so here's Ellen Brown. And this lady kicks ass. What will happen when banks go bust? Bank runs, bail-ins, and systematic here with the UNS review. So I'm a big fan of this lady. And I don't know, man. Banks can steal your money. Here's how. Your banks can legally seize your money, says Ellen Brown. And she goes back to the Dodd-Frank. Hey, again, just like with the COVID stuff, someone's got to freaking rhetorically swing for this stuff, man. You know what I'm saying? My sister texted me yesterday. My sister is in this business, and let's put it this way: my days of free marketeering are well behind me now, because I know there's no such thing as a free market. And my sister texted me. She goes, "Oh my goodness, that's not bad. Yikes! I got to take a screenshot of that. Yikes! If that's not Satan, I'm telling you, dude, the Dow was down 666. Yikes! How dare you?" Oops. Save the photos. Wow. Dow was down 666. Woo, Nelly. 10-year treasury at 3.395. Oh my goodness. That's a sign of they're going to raise the interest rates, Josh. Don't you know? Don't you know? They're going to raise them. Look at that. That's on this side. That's a 10-year treasury falling like a brick in water. No way they're going to raise rates again, dude. No way. I mean, anything could happen. It'd be freaking dumb. Anyway, so what my sister texted me, she said, by the way, watching the Madoff document on Netflix, a document I haven't watched. I don't know anything about it. Watch it. She texted my sister, Abby, and Abby crushes. I love Abby. She's my sister, so I have to love her, but I still love her. She's awesome. Josh, if you dislike big corporations and government, this will seal the deal even more. Seal the deal even more. My man, her husband said, Josh, are you able to pursue advertisers? If so, check out Old Glory Bank. I don't know anything about Old Glory Bank, but that's my brother. And so my sister's husband, is that my brother-in-law? I think it is. Let's take a look at Old Glory Bank, shall we? Old Glory Bank. Let's see what Old Glory Bank is about. I have no idea. It's just my sister's hubby hub. Old Glory. Old Glory. The red, white, and blue. Let's take a look. Represent Old Glory Bank. Old Glory, the bank for hardworking Americans who make the country run every day. The bank for people who believe in love of country, respect for the flag, and appreciate the military law enforcement. All right, I mean, I get all that, but dude, we stand with you no matter where you stand. All right, there's Old Glory Bank. All right, there we go. Very diverse. That's great. Look, these guys are working hard, man. Working hard. All right, count me in. People, John Rich. Yeah, I don't care. Whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm well beyond like, oh, they wave a flag. That must be righteous. They must be righteous. They wave a flag. Are we still on Rumble? We still live stream on Rumble? We still here? Anyway, seemed like I had something else to talk about as well. So we have to. I can't. Hold on a second. Oh, let me show you guys something else too. Check this out. You guys will get a kick out of this. Retail sales declined by 0.4% in February, says Brian Westbury. Retail sales declined, matching consensus expectations. Sales declined, matching consensus. As long as they match consensus, that's all that matters. The largest declines were autos and restaurants and bars. Retail sales cooled off in February. Yeah, I wonder what that means, dude. Yeah, we're not going into inflation. All right, I want to show you if I can find this right here. Right here. I can't show you I'm going to read this to you. We'll just call this lady Susie Q. Susie Q says, Josh, we just came back from spending 2 weeks in Hawaii. I remember you did a video on electricity rates in Hawaii a while back. We live in Massachusetts, and we can expect this in our near future. Pay the price if you want to go green. Wokeness gone mad. Thanks for your service and helping us pull the plug early retirement at 59 and 56. We are enjoying the go-go years. Luckily, pulled 8 years of cash thinking this was a huge safety net. Yes, Susie Q. The cash has ended up being an income producer. 4.5% in money market and a 1-year CD at 5.25%. Just like the lady from freaking Texas. $400,000 and she's making $18,000 a year in interest. Again, I don't like Capital One as far as I could kick them. They hired that freaking racist clown Samuel Jackson. I did like the movie, The Violin, whatever it's called, The Red Violin or something. That was a good movie. Actually, I like his acting. I'm not gonna lie. I just can't stand him as a person. But be that as it may, they hired Alec Baldwin, that clown Samuel Jackson, all kind of. I imagine probably they're going to hire. What's that freaking Amy Schumer lady? Whatever that chick's name is. It's only a matter of time before they hire Amy Schumer, Capital One. They hate no, but don't hire anyone who can even think about the right side of moral behavior. Their Capital One. Always hire these scumbags. What's going to be next? Snoop Doggy Dogg, freaking crazy. Anyway. Our long-term growth assets don't need to be touched for 8 years. That's how you look at it. That's how you look at it. She's getting income production on her short-term assets. She doesn't need to even think about touching her long-term assets for 8 years. Anyway, so I want to show you some here. Right here, if I can. I don't want you guys to see their names, obviously. So let's see if I can't make this video right here. One second. Anyway, so there's just a Hawaii newspaper. I'm not going to show it to you. Hawaiian Electric Company has announced that starting in 2024, they'll be charging 2 and 3 times the normal rate for electricity from 6 p.m. to 9 a.m. Why would you do it? Because that's the highest demand. That's when the load is bigger. Oh, guess what's not doing anything from 6 p.m. to 9 a.m.? The sun ain't shining, but Hawaii's going green. They're going green, baby. HECO, Hawaiian Electric Company, is promoting the idea that during the day, solar energy can hopefully apply enough electricity, but generating electricity between when the sun's down with petroleum will be carbon taxed. Yes, carbon taxed. That's awesome. Because solar provide enough electricity during the day, but we don't have it during the night, and we want to be net zero. So we're going to tax the carbon. So we're going to charge you 2 to 3 times at night, which is when the load is the biggest. They're freaking idiots, dude. The Greens don't have effective alternatives to petroleum, so they want to reduce the use of all electricity. Yep, 100%. Good times had by all. Good times had by all. The 2 and 3 times, but I thought solar would be able to power us, so we don't need to rely on electricity. Yeah, yeah, it looks like that was a lie. Remember Greta Thunberg? She just deleted her. I'm not on Twitter, but apparently she had a twit thing or whatever that's called, tweet that says, "Base, we're all going to die from climate change in 2023, March 2023," and she just deleted that tweet. Yeah, these are evil people. We're dealing with people. Evil. These are Satanists. There's no other way around that. This is satanic crap. And what they want is they want you to be their serfs. There's no two way. They look. You think Greta Thunberg is just an idiot. I get it. She's just a kid that her parents put up to because her parents are stupid. They say we're going to sacrifice our daughter so we can promote this green crap agenda because we want serfs. And they want us all serfs. There's no two ways around that. And we're going to be it regardless of what you want. And when I say serfs, that doesn't mean it's going to be like we're begging the king for money. Not anytime soon. That certainly will probably happen at some point, not in our lifetimes or even our kids. But certainly the serfdom's coming. And because the Green New Deal, all that crap is all based on reducing your consumption. Has nothing to do with meeting your demand of your load. It's reducing your consumption. And so what we have the Jim Cramers of the world right here. They knew what the hell was going on. I can't prove it. But they had to know. There's no way people did not know. Right? Some people got out of these things earlier than other people. That's the problem with fractional reserve banking. If you get out, it's a problem with inflation too. By the way, same thing with inflation. The first in are the ones making the bank, and you and I will never be the first in. So the Satanists are saying, okay, we don't like people. We can't promote a massive die-off. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to scare the living bejesus out of them and say, hey, you don't want to bring children to this world. You know what I'm saying? We're going to mandate they get various things injected to them that we can't guarantee are safe with our randomized controlled test. Did you actually do that? Did you actually do a randomized controlled test on MMR, DPT, poliovax? Did you actually do with the placebo? I'm just curious. I'm throwing it out there. I don't know. You tell me. Did Big Pharma actually do randomized controlled tests on pre-COVID vaccines with placebos? Hmm. Yeah. Probably want to do that. Probably be a good idea. But I don't think they did. That's weird. Because what they did is they tested their current iterations of vaccines against the previously approved iterations of vaccines. That's how they did their test. So, and people are going to sit there and say, I'm conspiracy theory, I'm crazy. It's so freaking stupid. No placebos, no saline solutions. We're going to test MMR Vax, updated one, against previously approved measles, mumps, rubella vaccines. And that will show us if the new MMR Vax is safe or not. Like, but don't you want to try it against a placebo? No, because the other one's already been approved, as shown. Okay. And people are going to believe these people. You got to laugh, dude. Anyway, all right. So what does that mean? It's no one's going to be held accountable because the big people don't get held accountable, man. They don't. I think my man Sergio, I'm not sure if he's on here, but Sergio made a point about Angelo Mozillo, if that makes sense. Mozillo, something like that. Y'all might not remember him, but Angelo Mozillo, I think is his name. I'm not sure if he's on here today. I hadn't heard that name in a long time. That was the guy who just got bank off of Countrywide mortgage. I think it's Countrywide mortgages. When it came time to pay the piper because of his, let's just say, shenanigans, nothing happened. Nothing happened, dude. It's all good because we can't take down the elite. We got to go after the Jacob Chainsleys of the world. That's what we're gonna go after. You know who Jacob Chainsley is, right? The shaman, the QAnon shaman guy, whatever that guy is, who actually said a prayer as he's going into the Capitol, led by Capitol Police to protect the Capitol Police. Anyway, it's all falling apart. It's all good, man. It is all good, and as such, there's nothing to do. But I would be looking at credit unions, and I'm telling you, man, I'd be freaking locked. So the banks aren't going to go away. What I mean by that is you don't. Some guy said the other day, should I take my money out of the banks? No, you just can't do that, man. FDIC coverage on everything, it blows up FDIC, I grant you. But in of itself, Paul Craig Roberts made a good point. And again, this is a right winger. He goes, look, man, tons of businesses have their money there to use for payroll. I mean, you can't just let that go away. That's a good point. I mean, so the government's going to backstop it so people can get paid. I say, so you can't hold accountable, even if they're woke companies like that stupid winemaker company I talked about the other day. I mean, it's not their fault if the banks they invest with are clowns, are corrupt as all can be. I mean, it's their fault in some regard because they only invested them because they're woke. But be that as it may, they still thought it was a solid bank. I don't even care. They still got payroll to meet, and the payroll is going to be met by the cash that the bank is being held at the bank. So you can't just let that expire because it's over the deposit limits. And I agree with that. That was a good point. Initially, it's like, dude, but there is no FDIC. Because FDIC can't cover all this. It's completely government backstop. The scary thing is a government backstop, which means what are the requirements? And that's the law. If the government grants you something, they're taking something. I don't know what it's going to be. That's the scary thing. Anyway, the point being is make sure you are looking at your local credit union. That's a fact. Angela's corrupt. Yeah, 100%, man. 100%. All right. Let's see what you guys want. I still think at the end of the day, I think people knew and they're dog whistling to their betters, say, hey, look, man, this is such a good buy. Wink, wink. You better get your money out of there before it hits the fan. I prove it? Nope. Do I want to prove it? No, I don't. But I'm just telling you, man, we are run by maroons. Let's just put it this way. I heard we'll just say a professor at a local college say the class that he's teaching, the seniors are they're just fragile, incredibly fragile. The people coming up are fragile. There's no, and we can argue all day long for helicopter parents. We can argue with tiger moms, all that. The wokeness has made our society a fragile society. And this guy's like, walking on eggshells because of the trans stuff. He said, I don't even know what I can say anymore. You know what I'm saying? And this is a pretty elite school. And he goes, all of us, I can't tell this to me. I just heard it through the grapevine, if you will. All of us see a significant falling off of the current class right now in college. It could be from COVID. Yeah. It could be from wokeness. Yeah. All that crap. Could be from tiger moms. Yeah. Maybe. But all that combined, there's no help coming up from bottom, if that makes sense. You see what I'm saying? Now, there are some wonderful people crushing in the bottom, the young people. There's just not as many as what we need. There's not. So the older people, the baby boomers dying off, the younger people come up fragile. And it's, again, but China's in the same way. This is an issue. Everyone's like, oh, China, dude, China's the same thing. They're ahead of us, actually, in terms of the demographic bomb. And so I'm not worried about China. I'm just saying, remember what it was like in the 70s. All right, so we talked about, I must have missed it, but someone said about eating meat. Yeah, let's see. In the 70s. All right. I'm not holding that. Oh, yeah, right here. Yes, but meat is bad for the climate. We need to end eating meat. I'm not in despair, Penelope. No. No. Nothing to be this. Look, if you believe in the creator, the thing that created everything of all things, seen and unseen, why would you be despairful? There's no reason to be despairing. Now, if you're reading your Bible, you're like, oh, I'm in Jeremiah. Well, yeah, same old story with Israel. You know what I'm saying? Same whole, from Ecclesiastes to Song of freaking Solomon's Song of I forgot, to Isaiah. The history of mankind is to not be obedient to God. That's just a fact. So the despair isn't on this world. The despair is the one to come because we all sin against the Lord. And unfortunately, we've fallen for the Pauline theory that, all sins are forgiven. We don't need to obey anymore. We don't need to obey. Look, I'm big. Trust me. I'm looking at myself right here. I see myself in this thing. And so Paul, no, just faith. faith, and that's a big problem. That's a big problem. If we actually look, if we look at the Greek of John 3:16, you know, it's not believe in Jesus, it's obey Jesus, and we see Jesus time and again list of major commands by Jesus, and Jesus wasn't playing around. He wasn't playing around, and then Old Testament passages quoted by Jesus right here. Um, Jesus certainly didn't turn away from the Old Testament. That's a fact. So remember, the Bible is written. Remember, is ancient Hebrew, Paleo Hebrew, if you want, and then Greek, and then was it Jerome? I think translated into Latin, and that's where we start getting issues at the translations. If you look at a literal version of it, you'd say to yourself, "Huh, yeah, it's not really much about sins just being forgiven. We can just hang out and drink beers. We're still supposed to obey." Anyway, so the point being is there's nothing to be fearful on this earth because it's temporal. It's going to come and go regardless. We need to be more in fear of the Lord. And I trust me, trust me. There's where my problem is. I don't have enough fear of God, and that's a bad thing. And as such, I need to get my act in order. And many of us probably ought to too. Anyway, so the financial markets, I mean, look, man, it is what it is. There's nothing to do about it. You just keep like that lady, Susie Q. She had 8 years of liquidity. 8 flipping years. Now she's making bank on that liquid assets. It's producing income. And so her other money is in the markets. 8 years. You think the market's going to go to zero? No. There's always going to be a capital markets. There's always going to be a Costco, a Walmart. I mean, you might not like these companies, but they're always going to be there. A lot of them pay dividends. You know what I'm saying? There's always going to, and when I say always, I'm talking about our generation here. The next, 50 years. These companies, it's not like the markets are going to, it's not Russia 1917, the Bolsheviks. I mean, there's still going to be a capital market. You're still going to have stocks that pay dividends. They might not grow the way we hoped. I don't think they will, but they're still going to be there. They're still going to turn over profits. They have to be profitable. It just so but the issue is maybe 4 years at this stage of liquidity isn't enough, especially when you're getting high rates now. So my man Vaughn, he said, what did he say here? He said, should I stick with VUSXX? And obviously I can't answer that on this video here, but let's just take a look what VUSXX is. VUSXX. Oops. VUSXX. VUS. I'm not seeing anything. I'm not sure what VUSXX. I don't see any. Vaughn, if you're still there, I don't see any VUSXX. Anyone know what he's talking about? VUS, maybe saying TX? Oh, yeah, maybe it's VUSTX? I don't know. I'm not seeing any VUSSX. So VUSTX is, I bet this sucker's rising like crazy the last couple. Yeah, look at that. VUSTX. Why? Because the rates go down, the price of the bonds goes up. Look at that, dude. VUSTX has went from 872 to 927. 50 that's 50 points up. VUSTX is up 6% in a month's time. Aren't those? Yeah, the ETF will have 3 tickers, just FYI. So an ETF will have 3 tickers. A mutual fund will have 5. I think there are some ETFs with 4 tickers, but if it's a mutual fund, will have 5. That's so if it's VUSXX or whatever it is, that's a mutual fund. So BND is the ETF version of Vanguard. I just don't know what VUSXXS is. It's a Treasury money market fund. That's what it is. Okay, let's take a look. Really? VUSXX. Oh yeah, Treasury. Oh man, that's no. I totally keep the Treasury money market fund, Vaughn. I don't get. Yeah. Yeah, you're right, dude. Who said that? Um, Someone said Treasury Money Market Fund. That guy, yeah, right here, Fuzzy Dice. Look at Fuzzy Dice kicking ass. Right on. Right now, it's a 4.57 SEC yield. Now, I will tell you guys, that's not going to last, man. I'm just telling you right now. Fed fund, I don't know, it might last for another 6 months or something like that. They're not going to keep rate. Like, I could be wrong. Fed funds rate was at 4.5, something like that, 4.75. With a slowing, if not economy, they're not going to keep raising, man. I mean, because they're going to put more banks on the. It's over. The raising is over, and as such, you're not going to get these higher rates for a long time. Because again, we're such a. 1 second. Ooh, Pablo, I cannot stress this enough. People don't realize. I try my best to show people the insanity of where we are in this inverted yield curve. So we got the Fed funds rate, we'll just say 4.75. You got a 10-year treasury at 3.35. I mean, has it ever been that much difference inversion? I mean, that's freaking insane. Insane. For the 1980s, the rates were in the freaking double digits, people, in the 1980s. The rates, this is what I'm talking about. Last year, the rates went so flipping high because they were so low. And people, who's this guy named Fred? I can't believe Fred is still on my YouTube channel because he really doesn't like me. He doesn't like my kind, Fred. He's like, they're going to raise rates till the 1980s. I'm like, dude, are you? If they raise rates to the 1980s, it's over for everybody. Because the 1980s were already based on almost double-digit rates at the Fed funds rate to begin with, dude. It's insane. Think about it like this. We'll just say in 1978, the Fed funds rate was at 8%, something like that. I don't know exactly, but just use that for example. It's close. If they raise it to 16%, that's a doubling of the Fed funds rate. All right? This is why you got to look at the logarithmic scale, log scales. If the Fed funds rate was at 8 and they double it, that's the 16. The Fed funds rate was at, 25 basis points like a year and a half ago? And now it's at 4.75? I don't have the brain to figure out what exponential growth that is, the Fed funds rate. I just literally, people don't understand. It's nuts to me. I'm like, how can you not see this? Because they look at 1980s and just this vacuum of, 1980s, the rates were 21%. I'm like, yes, but they were way higher the whole time. From like 1973 to 4 on, they're well above 5%. So a quadrupling of the Fed funds rate at 5 leads it to 20. A quadrupling of the initial Fed funds rate at 25 basis points only leads it to what? 1.25. And now we're at 4.75. Do people not see the magnitude of this? It's insane. It's insane. And it can't last. Something's got to give. The long-term rates are going to go up, which means people are selling their bonds like freaking crazy, which I don't think is going to happen. Because you have to, what are you going to use that money with? You're not going to buy stocks, most likely. You already took it on the chin last year in the bond market, the worst bond market ever in the history of mankind. So what are you going to do? You're going to sell your bonds, which are smoked? Well, I'm going to go buy a 4.75% money market. That's great, but that money market isn't going to be there for that long because if the Fed funds, what they start doing is going to start lowering the rates at some point. Because we can't keep inverted yield curve forever, man. It just, something is going to give, as I say every single time. Something has got to happen. This can't keep going on forever because there's no incentive to lock in your money for long-term debt. Mortgages, long-term debt. Commercial loans, long-term debt. There's no incentive there if the rate is so much lower than the Fed funds rate. That means the bank is paying you to borrow money. The bank is paying you to borrow money. I was talking to a guy from awesome couple from California yesterday, just crushing. She's getting ready to retire a little bit earlier. And they're like, what? Because they saved. Anyway, he's got a 30-year mortgage at 3.25. He's got 28 years left. And let's call this guy, I don't know, we'll call him Evan. We'll say Evan. Got a 30-year mortgage at 3.25. And right now, he's got a bunch of cash, about $1 million actually, sitting on the sideline, paying him 4.75. The bank is paying him to borrow money. Isn't that crazy? So for $1 million, he's getting $47,000 in interest. He's got to pay tax on that, grant you. But his mortgage isn't costing him $47,000 in interest. His mortgage is costing him $18,000, something like that, $20,000. He's getting paid to borrow. What that means is when this just can't last. So something is going to give. Either this is going to go up to uninvert, or this is going to go down. What happens in recessions? The bonds, government bonds, safe haven, do they get sold or do they get bought? All right, so if we have a safe haven, a flight to quality, safe haven, government bonds get bought. What does that do to the price of government bonds? It increases the price. What does that do to yields? Always remember, prices go up, yields go down. It's just that simple. Prices go up, yields go down. Why do prices go up? Because of demand. People are like, I'm not touching the freaking Citigroup stock. I'm selling that puppy. I'm locking my money in, even at a loss, so I can make sure I don't get smoked when the S hits the fan. Prices go up, yields go down. Why do yields go down? Why do yields go up? Because people are selling their bonds. Well, right now, we can see right now, people aren't selling their bonds right now. Look at this. Look at this. That is the yield, not the price. 10-year Treasury. Whoop. People aren't selling their bonds. Why do people not sell their bonds? Because they're worried. They're like, man, this economy isn't good. I can't sell my bonds. I mean, I'm not going to sell my bonds and buy stocks. That's for sure. All right. Yeah. Jill says, my great-grandfather, born in Germany, buried a lot of his money, silver and gold, in the backyard during the Depression. They were unable to find it until after his death. They were never able to find it all after his death in 1952. Sweet, I'm going to Jill's house. I'm going to dig around. Blaine Ents, they just retired. Cool, man. All right. Just looking at your comments. We're not voting our way out of this, man. I just 2024 is our last chance. we've been, man. USA, yeah. Well, why do you think they're training us in the old German school of this is what's happening? I mean, there's a bunch of books I have back there, but the education system, the horsemans of the world and whatnot, they want good little citizens to listen to their marching orders. That's what they want, man. Good little citizens. They don't want independent thinkers. They just say, you do what we say. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's a patriot right there. You pledge your allegiance to that flag that will do what we say. We'll draft you and send you to Vietnam. We'll draft you. We'll send you to freaking wherever. Okay, I'll do it. If that's what America wants. And then we're going to lie to you about all kinds of other things. And you'll say, but you're not a patriot. You're not a patriot. It was like Joe Biden said, you're not a patriot if you don't take the jab. I mean, so look, Republicans are patriot, freaking fiends as the Democrats are. Everyone wants to use the patriotism when it advances their cause. The true patriot is my man Eugene Debs. That's a true patriot. The socialists who went to jail for protesting World War I. Socialism isn't like that today. Socialism, a bunch of freaking Nazis hiding under the idea that they can't be Nazis, so they're socialists instead. I mean, the National Socialist. I mean, it's shocking, right? Hitler wasn't a socialist. Yes, he was. Of course he was. Mussolini, socialist. I mean, give me a break. And the current realm of socialists, the AOCs of the world, they're just Nazis, but they can't say they're Nazis because, they'll never get a street cred. So they just say they're socialist. Bernie Sanders, you think that guy's a socialist? No, come on. Let's see. So what else you guys want to talk about? Oil want for fix broken. The whole world's in chaos. Yes, exactly. We need one leader to rule the whole planet. Well, we already have them. The Rothschilds and Rockefellers, JP Morgans. Ooh, by the way, something I've been wanting to read. I haven't read it yet today, but I was wanting to. Hold on just a second. So right here. Not on my glasses. Fact check from Reuters. JP Morgan did not sink the Titanic to push forward plans for the U.S. Federal Reserve. Oh, but they corrected their fact check, did Reuters. Huh? And they got rid of the first 9 paragraphs. This is in 2021. A widely shared meme has taken several facts about the Titanic out of context. They always say it's out of context. Kind of like FDR. It took it out of context with the knowledge of Pearl Harbor. Was a Mexican thing. Remember that whole Mexican thing? It's crazy. Anyway, this is, let's see. A widely shared meme has taken several facts about the Titanic out of context to make unsubstantiated claims that imply the ship's sinking was deliberate act. This is not true, says Reuters, but we just got rid of the first 8 paragraphs of the article we initially wrote. Experts widely agree the sinking of the Titanic was an accident. Oh, man, okay, well, the experts agree that. Woo, man, who am I to challenge the experts? I was reading an article the other day from the New York Times. It's so freaking funny. What was it said? It said there is no evidence of, I forgot what it was. I was like, they had to throw it in there. Like somebody was doing something. He says, yeah, he's doing this, even though there's no evidence of to support his thing. I forgot what it was. I was like, man, what the hell was that? I can't remember. I was just reading the other day too. It's like, man, I was just laughing my butt off because like there's no evidence to support it. Well, the New York Times doesn't see any evidence because they shut their eyes to the evidence. Let's just keep reading this right here. The meme was posted on Facebook and has been shared by more than 600 times. So the Reuters, check this out. You know there's smoke. You know there's fire here because there's smoke. Reuters is fact checking a meme on Facebook that was shared 600 times. 600 times. Some random guy on Facebook posted on that shared 600 times, and Reuters is going to write a fact check against it, and they have to correct their fact check where they get rid of the first 8 paragraphs. It consists of 2 images, one of the ship and a second of American financier JP Morgan. These sit alongside a wall of text that suggests Morgan had motive to sink the Titanic because it was hosting 3 powerful people who opposed his idea for centralized banking in the Federal Reserve Board. Did you know the man who funded the building of the Titanic, JP Morgan, canceled his long-awaited journey just hours before his proposed departure? I don't know that to be true. I don't know. But did JP Morgan actually fund the Titanic? That's weird. 3 of the wealthiest men on earth were against the creation of the Federal Reserve Bank, happened to be invited aboard its maiden voyage. Guggenheim, Isidor Strass, and John Astor. It then headed full speed into a known iceberg with less than half the required lifeboats, blah, blah, blah. While it's true that JP Morgan owned the Titanic and did not sail on its doomed maiden voyage, I guess it was. JP Morgan owned the Titanic, and you're telling me the guy who owned the Titanic wasn't going to sail on his maiden voyage? There's no evidence to suggest, oh, this is nuts, dude. This actually makes it even worse. While it's true that JP Morgan owned the Titanic and did not sail on his maiden voyage, there's no evidence to suggest he deliberately missed the trip because he knew the ship would be sink. We don't have a recording of JP Morgan says, no, that ship's going to sink. I'm not getting on the Titanic. Okay. Historians have debated several reasons for Morgan to cancel a trip, but none is related to the Federal Reserve. I've never been able to find authoritative 1912 source explaining the exact reason why JP Morgan canceled his passage. So he was supposed to be on the ship and he canceled it. But we have no evidence to say he knew it was going to sink. But the 3 guys opposing the Federal Reserve Board were on there, and they just happened to go to their just rewards, I suppose, for being, according to JP Morgan. The advisory board member, the official explanation was that Morgan fell ill and wanted to take the cure at a spa in France with his mistress. While it's also true that Strauss, Macy's department store owner, John Jacob Astor, a property tycoon, and Benjamin Guggenheim, a mining boss, died in the disaster, there's no evidence to suggest they were the target of deliberate. Dude, this is all they got. Damn, this is like the COVID crap, dude. This is like with the masks. It's like, that's all you got? It's like the moon landing people. You start saying, wait a second. You're like, what they'll start saying is, why would they lie? I don't know why people lie. Why would they lie? They'll start saying it costs more to fake it than it did to send people to the moon. You're like, okay, that's literally, this is what happens when you start diving in. It's like, wait, that's all you had? Neil deGrasse Tyson, it costs more to fake it than to send people to the moon. You're like, okay. You're not familiar with Gene, what's his name? Gene Grants, or what the hell is that guy? Said, dude, we have it looks great. It looks, you don't even need to, based on paraphrasing here, is we have all these images. You don't even need, you're not even sure if you're on the moon or not. We have it set up in such a wonderful studio, essentially. Gene Kranz, that's the name, Gene Kranz. Dude, this is it? This is all they got? Dude, it's crazy. I'm telling you, man. Firstly, Titanic's maiden voyage had attracted many prominent names. It was dubbed the Millionaire Special. Secondly, some expert said he was unable to find any documents researched the Titanic that proved the men were opposed to the Federal Reserve. Okay, well, that anyway. So the fact that Reuters is fact checking a meme that has 600 shares, and the best they have is we can't prove that J.P. Morgan deliberately got off the Titanic knowing that it was going to sink, or we can't prove deliberately that the three financiers were opposed to the freaking Federal Reserve Bank. So thus, this is fact check fake. Yikes, dudes! Yikes! That's pretty bad. So the three guys. So when did the Federal Reserve get created? On this Christmas Eve, 1913. Nothing weird about that. Huh. ADL was created in 1913. IRS was created in 1913. I think the FBI as well as the Federal Reserve. All these groups, kind of strange. You're a conspiracy theorist, Josh. Yeah, if you're not a conspiracy theorist now, I don't know what to tell you, man. Come on. It's just like so freaking stupid that you actually have to defend yourself from your conspiracy. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so what? Oh, how dare you? How dare you become a? Well, we got tons of books that show you how Einstein was a fraud, but now it's conspiracy. Tons of other books that show you how big, how the wealthy got wealthy just by being in the right place at the right time and massaging the powers that be. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Yeah, it's okay. Don't care anymore. Lots of face ripping going on the market today. Let's see what we got. All right. Is Kaboom like going up? Let's see. Ron is slumming with. How can I explain the Fed debt rollout? I thought they had to roll it over at new higher rates. Yeah, well, they're gonna. I mean, they're not paying off the debt. So if you have a maturing bond, you either have to pay it or you have to it's like a certificate of deposit. You pay it off, which the federal government's not going to do, or you reissue it at a higher rate, a competitive rate. So that's how they do it. Pretty simple stuff here, Doug. You got a bond that matures. All right. So you loan money to the creditor. The creditor says, okay, your bond matures. We still need your money. So we can't cash out. So we're going to give you a higher interest rate to keep your money because we don't have any cash to buy it. Now, the Federal Reserve can pretty much do whatever they want. I mean, literally, they could probably just go in there and cancel all the debt. But it doesn't matter because if they issue new debt, it's got to be at market rates, dudes. It has to be at market rates. No one's going to buy the money if it's at below market rates. Yeah, Klaus Schwab for president, right on. Yeah, 100%. Like Liz Cheney. The only person, that's why I still like Trump. The only person that ever went to D.C. and lost, boatloads of money was Donald Trump. Everyone else goes to D.C. and gets rich. Trump went to D.C. and lost tons of money. I still love Wellesley. I love Wellesley Fund. But I was talking to today, I was going to do a video on it, but she had the Vanguard private, what's it called, personal advisory services, and she got out of it. Probably a good move. And anyway, I said, well, let's see what you got, man. Let's make sure they're not too heavy in the equities because she's got 2-year time frame before she hangs up the boots. And she was 40-60. And I said, that's pretty good. So I'm pretty I'm done. Trump can be bought if you tell me he's the greatest at everything. 100%. I agree with that. Jill, you got to admit that's pretty funny. Don loves to be massaged. His ego massage. Yep. I'll be spot. 100%, which is scary when you think about some of these people sell their soul for nothing but a little bit of fame, a little bit of money. We're not even talking big bucks. Right. Yeah, I 100%. No one can dismantle the swamp. Yep. Yep. Trump did. Look, I'm going to vote for the guy. Trust me, and it'd be great if he could, but it's not going to happen. The swamp is big, but they're afraid of Trump. That's why they're still going after him. And that's the saving grace of Trumpster, is that they are afraid of Trump because that's why they're going after him. Throwing the kitchen sink at him. You know what I'm saying? But you can't drain the swamp, dude. The swamp's come on. You think? Let's just put it this way. Remember JFK? Yeah. Let's just keep that in the back of your mind. Lone gunman, huh? Lone gunman JFK. Okay. So let's just put it this way. You can't drain the swamp because they'll drain you first, if that makes sense. So for Trump, the fact that he's still around is probably lucky because you know what I'm saying with that. You could easily see the swamp draining Trump before Trump drains the swamp, if that makes sense. So that's what I mean. I truly believe the whole thing with the 2019 going to 20 narrative is they had to get rid of Trump. 100%. Trump was the only guy because they could not have another JFK stuff. That'd be too obvious. You see what I'm saying? So they had to get rid of him. And they own the media. They control the media. So a lot of people are sheep. They just listen to whatever the media says. The media says jump. They'll say, how high should I jump, media? What's that black guy's name? Don Lemon. Tell me how high I should jump, Don Lemon. They'll say, okay. Look, we know all people like this. Tons of people like this, man. It's crazy. And lots of them on the right wing, too. They'll listen to freaking Sean Hannity. It's just all these people are dumb. Anyway, the point being is they said, look, we can't let this guy win a re-election. Thus, we're going to do whatever we can to make sure he doesn't win re-election. And that's literally what happened. I truly, that's why I was so surprised that Trump fell for it. So I said, don't you see what's happening? Now, Trump, to his credit, he allowed the states to do what they're going to do, but that still was the wrong answer because the states were able to make, in Georgia, Pennsylvania, Arizona, these freaking voting, you just drop your mail, go down there and put your thing in. Now, the problem is mom's going to say, yeah, we need federalized elections. You can't, dude, I'm telling you, that's going to be like, this is how the left wins all the time. They're just better at this than us. We need so basically, the right has always argued against a national ID. Always. We never wanted a national ID because of violation of liberty. No other way around that. Now, you might say your social security number is a national ID, and it is 100%. And the right was arguing against that as well. But the right has always been against a national ID. But now with all these illegal immigrants, you know what I'm saying, everyone's like, oh, we need a national ID that can prove you're an American citizen. That will only allow you to vote in federal elections. We need a national voting mechanism to nationalize federal elections. And there is some legitimacy to the argument, just like there's a legitimacy to the transportation, TSA, the DHS, all that stuff. All these arguments, and it's kind of like tons of legitimacy to Paul. Romans is freaking, Galatians is chock full. There's what Paul, that's the issue. Tons of wonderful stuff that can be used to legitimize an argument. At the end of the day, it doesn't make the argument right, though. In fact, what happens is that gets perpetrated into turning against you. Look at DHS now. It's a freaking clown show. TSA, clown show. We're still taking our shoes off, all that crap at the airport. Clown show. Clowns all over the place. You're never going to get rid of that. And you're never going to get rid of all this other crap that goes with it. It's just never going to happen, man. Because so what happens is the right wing starts saying, yeah, Reagan, he was very scared. He was for gun control when he saw the Black Panthers walk around California with firearms. Like, oh, can't have that. Can't have that. So the right wing was for gun control when the blacks were doing it. You see what I'm saying? Scare the living crap out of them. Like, oh my goodness, they're going to revolt. Literally. And so the right wing did not pursue Second Amendment the way they did until about the 90s when Clinton started using that against us. Then the right wing said, yeah, no, that's not good. Yeah, but you let the freaking camel in the tent, dude. You did. Just like with COVID, you let the camel in the tent. Just like DHS, TSA, you let I was there half the time with that. I said, yes, man, get those Muslims over there if they come over here. You got to make sure we freaking And then for me, the big change was literally when I started investigating vaccines. I said, wait a second, man. There's a lot more here than meets the eye. How come I never heard about this stuff? And then you start investigating a little bit more. You say, wait a second. It's like, and then you start saying, well, maybe I'm missing something. And everyone, the vitriol they give you to even challenge you, wait, you're like, this reminds me identical to climate change to me. It's like the same thing. It's like the same level of hostility just for asking questions. And you're like, okay, so I'm onto something here because you're over the target when you're taking flack. And so you say, okay, the same thing happened with COVID. But by then it was too late because I, like many other Republicans, said, "Oh, we got DHS, we got to go over there," and a lot of us fell for the vax narrative to begin with. Look at Rick Perry, and as such, we gave with the store, man. Gave with the store. The left ran with it, and the left uses they run with the Republicanism until it cements it into a law essentially, and then Democrats take advantage of it and use it against us. That's all there is to it. So you're going to hear loud words from the right. We need to nationalize federal elections because it sounds legit. You're like, yeah, dude. We need a U.S. ID. Yeah, dude. And where does that lead you? I mean, it's going to lead to digital currencies, freaking scanning your ID on here. All that stuff. It's inevitable. But the Republicans need to be like Saul Alinsky. Use the playbook of the left to beat the left. And frankly, Trump's the only one who's going to be able to do this, in my opinion. But I don't think he's going to win. I don't think it's going to happen. So yeah, it is what it is. No, don't forget. Like you start thinking about other boats being sunk. Was it Lithuania, whatever that boat was called? I can't remember. The Lithuania that sunk that got us into World War I or something like that. Oh, that just happened to be stock full of weaponry. Happened to be stock full of weaponry. Who would have thought? I agree. Double holes are available. Oh, okay. So the Titanic should have had a double hole, but didn't, even though they're available. Huh. That's crazy. It's almost like JP Morgan knew. Oh, Nikki Haley's the worst, dude. Nikki Haley's the worst. Think government might come out with some type of stimulus package. Man. Well, in Georgia, they're giving us these surplus rebate checks. I just got and I think where did I see that? So we have a big surplus here in the state of Georgia, and they're going to issue. I can't find it, but they're going to issue us surplus checks, rebates, essentially. As opposed to reducing the income taxes, we're just going to give you a little bit back of your money and keep that rate high. So anyway, I could easily see the government doing something like that, Vaughn, 100%. Can a sinner become a non-sinner? I think once you're a sinner, you're always a sinner, right? It'd be like saying, can you be like Jesus after you've already committed adultery? And the answer is, of course not. So if you're a sinner, it's like an alcoholic. Like I haven't drank May 25th, 1997. So how many years is that? Today is 2023 minus 1997. 2023 minus 1997. So I have not drank in 26 years. Dave. 26, Dave Charlton. I get my eye on Dave Charlton. It seems like that guy is, get my eye on that guy. Anyway, so I haven't drank in 26 years. Am I an alcoholic still? Yes, of course. We're called dry drunks. A lot of alcoholics are still dry drunks. I don't think I'm such a dry drunk anymore, but be that as it may, it's like, can a sinner become a non-sinner? Can an alcoholic become a non-alcoholic? No. If you're addicted to alcohol, even though you're not drinking, you're still an alcoholic. That's all there's to it. Now, I was never, in the gutter. I mean, I used to go to AA a lot. You should hear the stories about these guys. Like, damn, like literally. And then they'd have some combination of AA and NA, Narcotics Anonymous, and some of those NA guys is freaking, dude. Don't ever get involved in that crap, dude. You hear these stories about these NA guys, Narcotics Anonymous, mix in with AA guys. You're like, dude, I just like to drink and pick up chicks, which didn't really work out very well for me very often, and then get angry and get in fights. That's what I used to do. You know what I'm saying? Not as young, mid-20s do. So relax. But you're a young man. You're like, hey, baby. And she's like, get out of here, you drunken fool. All right, I'm gonna take it out on that guy over there. And hey, what are you looking at? 95% of the time I wasn't like that. 5% of the time I was. That 5% of the time was ruinous to one's life. So anyway, so the issue is, but then I was never in the gutter, never like that. Never drank on the way to work, like somebody's never like that. But then when they start having joint meetings, you see these narc addicts. You're like, I mean, literally, dude, they sell their soul literally for freaking a hit of crack, or this is well before meth. At least I haven't gone to an AA meeting in a long time, but meth wasn't anything back then. It was crack, heroin, before fentanyl and all that stuff. But anyway, long story short, it's like, dude, these guys would literally, let's just put it this way, even if they weren't in favor of other men sexually, they're still willing to get jiggy with other men if that's what it got to get a fix. And crazy dudes. Yeah. So this Dave, he's basically saying we can't obey Jesus because we're a sinner by nature. All right, well, you're gonna have to take that up with God. You'll never be perfect, but you're supposed to obey Jesus, as according to John 3:16. But it doesn't say that. It did say it in the original Greek and the original Paleo Hebrew. The original Greek, 100%. So stop. Yeah, what we're saying, even ID can be stolen. Yeah, right. Exactly. Real ID would be a mark on our right hand or our forehead. Yep, 100%. That's what they want, right there. Yeah, and we all voted for it. We all said yes, because those Muslims are going to come get us over here. 19 Saudi Arabians with box cutters somehow were able to. Yeah, what I'm saying. Always vote Republican because when you're dead, you always. That's funny. I recall those days when hamburger was very uncommon for us. When Burger Chef was bigger than Big. I ain't even heard of Burger Chef. Isn't that crazy, man? Louisiana. I can't pronounce it. All right, my friends. What else you guys got? What I'm saying. More votes than I did. So I got. When I was analyzing the 2020 thing, I had lots of great spreadsheets where I analyzed. It was fun to do, and and then YouTube basically said, essentially, if you want to keep your channel, you're gonna have to stop this. And I said, okay, yes, master, I will stop this. But I mean, I had tons of spreadsheets showing the shenanigans, the various, let's put it this way, anomalies of various things. Just stuff like this: more votes than registered voters. The insane amount of it was. I got to be careful what I say, but I had spreadsheets showing like the level of growth in the voting from 2008 to 2020, where like Obama was the first black president and everyone loved Obama. You know what I'm saying? And then Biden somehow. You see the change in votes from Kerry to Obama from 2004 to 2008, and then you see the change in votes from Hillary to Biden, and you're like, no, that didn't happen. It was insane, and you can do it I did by counties because all it took was a couple counties per state. You start to say, yeah, that's not that. But everything was they're never gonna get Hunter. No, come on. Everything was on the up and up, free and fair, safe and effective, free and fair, safe and effective. Yeah, they do that called the kicker check. Yeah, thanks, Peggy. Like your humor too, Peggy. If any man be a man in Christ, he's a new creature. But Q and drugs are what I'm saying. Patrick with his white beard. Great beard. So Patrick's been around the block. Your grandma didn't have any government make money. Yeah. You guys are gonna get out of here, my friends. Fun being here. Appreciate y'all. Absolutely. It's fun being here. It's fun being among friends, be able to yap like this. So just give I'm saying another prayer here. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for allowing us this time together. We pray for those who are living completely in fear right now, worried about the financial situation that's making them almost paralyzed with fear. And we always remember that you are in charge. Whatever you want happens, stop. And we're just here to serve you the best we can. And we just ask for forgiveness for every time we don't serve you and don't honor you. We pray in Jesus' name, amen. All right, well, Barky McGee here, man. She's Lisa for cheese. Come here. Oh, my goodness. Here's Barky McGee. Whoa, whoa, I want that Denver steak. I want that Denver steak. We all love you, Pablo. Everybody loves Pablo. Look at this guy. He just wants some loving. All right. God bless, guys. Don't forget, Friday at 4 p.m., locals only. You got to be on my locals channels. It's joshscanlon.locals.com. Friday at 4 p.m. All right. Love to see you there. Locals only. Oh, what? See something? Okay. You can blink anytime. There you go. All right. God bless. See you.